Thanks very much for the third and, for me, final opportunity to address you today. So right off the bat, there are several, we think, encouraging high-level commitments in this report. First of all, staff's recommended 3 core priorities, namely working on climate adaptation, climate mitigation, and community partnerships. Each of these is a critical aspect of climate change. Second of all, Council's, quote, unanimous support for the city to play a role in community climate action. Given that community emissions are, as we've mentioned, 96% of our total emissions, this is essential. Next, the climate team's pledged, quote, leadership role in embedding climate considerations into departmental planning and operations and, quote, continued collaboration across the organization that is the city. This pledge properly addresses climate change's cross-cutting nature. Council's wish to, quote, collaborate more closely with the private sector, nonprofits, and community organizations. As you well know, there are numerous organizations and groups across the city who are eager to collaborate, and the city takes advantage of only a small proportion of the latent interest. As high-level principles, these are all laudable, as is the emphasis on flexibility, given frequently changing conditions, as well as the promise for a greenhouse gas emissions dashboard and a department-led working group. The plan to, quote, enhance public awareness of existing climate programs also seems good, although it would be helpful to have the data on uptake. What is current uptake and what impact will this increased visibility and access have? So like Angela, I think there's a lot of really good stuff in here. We're also a little bit curious about the plan for updates to the energy evolution model. Will the department-led working group and community at large play a role in crafting this? And as to the CCMP refresh, we'd love to know the process and timeline for this. My remaining comments deal with the prioritization framework. First of all, I want to observe the strangeness of this exercise. Staff were asked to develop, through extensive research and consultation, to create a prioritization framework for a $6 million fund. To what other city expenditure do we apply this level of scrutiny? To the framework itself, we're glad to read about the emphasis on impact. This seems basically uncontroversial, if not obvious. Indeed, what possibly was the guiding priority formerly? The report refers to deprioritized actions, but doesn't name these. So what were they, and what's the case for the deprioritization of each? Particularly of interest are what the report calls, quote, more aggressive policy measures that may not yet align with community readiness for behavior change. Of interest because aggressiveness is precisely what's needed to meet our targets, as the GHG inventory we earlier discussed clearly demonstrates. We're also wondering about measuring impact, as the previous delegate. With mitigation, this is relatively straightforward, the amount of emissions eliminated. But how will impact be measured with resilience? Moreover, there are a few potential contradictions that arise in the framework. For one thing, the report calls for a more streamlined approach, focusing on areas the city directly controls. At the same time, however, the CCMP update acknowledges that efforts to reduce emissions, quote, require sustained collaboration and action among residents, businesses, utilities, and various levels of government. But collectively, I'm continuing the quote, set the stage for accelerated community-wide GHG emissions reductions. Even the audit response itself acknowledges that, quote, the municipality cannot achieve its emissions reductions targets on its own. So yes, let's take all available steps within the municipal jurisdiction. That's good. But by staff's own correct admission, we can't limit our efforts to this. Relatedly, the, quote, streamlined approach seems to call for quick results. On one hand, this is understandable. We are in a climate emergency after all. But the CCMP update again acknowledges that the impacts of our community mitigation efforts, quote, will take time to materialize. We do need to take action immediately, but we also need to leave the door open to impact being felt in the long term. Similarly, leading by example, what exactly is the impact of such leadership? Inspiring Ottawans to their own actions, the connection is unclear. Likewise, the focus on fewer projects. Will this indeed increase impact? Particularly in a city as diverse as Ottawa, we go from the relatively dense urban to the rural. And with a problem as cross-cutting as climate change, the impact of slimming down the number of projects is unclear. To close, we look forward to the implementation of these plans, particularly the prioritization of mitigation, resiliency, and community involvement. And we support the pursuit of impact, but in a holistic, thoughtful way that meets the climate emergency. Thank you.